What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Optimus Fantasy Football YouTube channel. We are here for our Week 13 live fantasy football DFS and betting Q&A. Any questions you have, whether it is redraft, dynasty, if you have some DFS questions, some betting questions, some general football questions, we are here to answer them for you as we head into Week 13 of NFL action. I am Nate Polvogt, joined by my co-host, the one and only Keith Flemming, who is just back from Thanksgiving vacation, just rolling in home, straight to the camera for you guys. Keith, how are we doing tonight?
Luckily, makeup and all that stuff, it's not going to make any difference. So I don't really need much prep time before going on air. Yeah, man, real reality check. We were down in Sarasota, Florida. It was like 80 degrees, just amazing.
Beautiful.
I get back to Atlanta and it's like already in the low 40s, and looking at the 7-day forecast and again, remember people, if you're up north, don't make fun of me, but it's going to be like in the 20s, which for us, it might as well be 50 below. We are not built for that in Georgia. That is not what we can deal with. And honestly, anything below 50, I'm not crazy about it. So it is, on top of going back to work next week, not very happy to come home to this weather.
I don't blame you, man. It was when I got up this morning, it was 17 degrees. That was about 7 o'clock.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and that's actually not bad. It's a little chilly for this time of year, but we'll be in the 0 and sub-zero here in the next month.
No way.
Almost guaranteed. It's funny.
This is my nightmare.
Well, we hate the cold in our house. We're very much like we want warm weather, which is hilarious because we live in Colorado, which is a bunch of idiots. And now we are moving farther west from where we live, higher elevation, which is colder, and we're going to get more crappy weather where we live for our new place. So I should probably stop complaining.
Right?
I don't have any complaints about Thanksgiving dinner. We've got Jamie Parag dropping in the chat here. How many pounds of food did y'all eat yesterday, and what did you eat the most of? Keith, what was your favorite, most consumed dish yesterday?
Well, I mean, a little disappointed because we spent it with my wife's family. They're from up north, so they don't do deep fried turkey, which if you have not done deep fried turkey, like it's hard to go back. Like it really is. But the food was wonderful, ham and everything. My favorite was my wife made homemade chocolate pie, which it's a dish in our household because we are near the original Chick-fil-A. They sell these whole chocolate pies at the original Hateville Chick-fil-A it's like crack, man. It is the greatest thing you've ever had. I had about 3 pieces of it last night. A ton of ham. I'm a big cornbread, like stuffing is one of my favorite, cornbread casserole. Like all those are my favorite. My wife makes really good. My wife can cook. So, I mean, there's a lot of great food. I was missing the deep fried turkey though. I'm not going to lie. Hoping we get one for Christmas. Fingers crossed.
So we used to do Thanksgiving for both my family and my wife's family all at our house. And my family had started doing a deep fried turkey a couple of years prior. So we were doing both for years. We had a deep fried turkey. I bought a countertop rotisserie turkey fryer.
Ooh, that sounds kind of nice.
It was cool. Got it at Cabela's. Got it right before Thanksgiving, probably like 10 years ago. But we have kind of like reverted back to, we smoke a turkey on our Weber every year.
See, smoking is fine. It's just a baked turkey. I just can't get.
No,
I can't. It doesn't taste the same, man. Like once you've had a smoke or a deep fried turkey, it's like, look, I'm not saying your turkey's dry. It's just dry compared to a deep fried or smoked turkey, like period. And it comes across as an insult. It's not. I'm just trying to explain. Like once you go there, you cannot go back. Like it's impossible.
Someone who was a chef for a better part of 12 years, I will tell you that turkey is just an inherently dry meat. It's very hard to cook it and have it be juicy. Frying is the way to go. We got Vince Mapstone. He is down there in Australia. He says while he's not an American, he's very thankful for Johnny Smith and Brock Bowers. To pivot to football here, Keith. Brock Bowers today, was it 14, 140, had 140 yards. It was 10 catches for 140 against Kansas City. The Raiders almost pulled this game off. They got real close. If it wasn't for that turnover late there, they were at least in position to go up by a point with a field goal. Brock Bowers, though, let's talk about him real quick. Is he the rookie of the year?
I mean, you're asking the wrong guy because I planted my flag on Brock Bowers Island over 2 years ago because I was a Georgia fan. I watched him. I said in February I thought he was the best offensive player of my lifetime I'd seen at Georgia.
Yeah.
I thought that he had a chance to be the number one tight end this year, and he would unquestionably be the number one tight end next year. And people just had no idea what was coming because you just don't watch him. And it's been exactly what I thought. He catches everything, which that's obviously a benefit when you're as big. People just don't realize how athletic he is. So, like, he's very fast. And it's like you put a smaller guy on him, he just bullies him. He's a bully ball guy at that point. You put a bigger guy on him, he's going to blow by him. And I just keep telling people, he's doing this with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. Wait till this dude gets a QB. I saw it last year with Carson Beck, who could throw the ball better than Stetson Bennett. Say what you want about Bennett. I love Bennett. He won me 2 titles. But
Sure, but Carson Beck's a better quarterback.
Yeah, and Bowers just went to another level. Unfortunately, he got hurt. And I think that's a lot of reason why people were sleeping on him this year was – you kind of forgot about him because he missed a lot of games. He wasn't at 100% for a lot of games he played last year, but he's the best offensive player in this class. Now, he's not going to win it because it's a stupid QB. You know, it's one of these QB awards, and I'm sure it'll end up going to Daniels or Nix, but he is going to be such a problem. And I just think he's like the best tight end prospect ever. When you think about all the things he can do, because it's basically like you take like an Antonio Gates and then throw in like the Travis Kelce's ability to, like, because people forget Kelce can really block. He does everything. And that's what Bowers is. Like, he can do everything. And as you can see, we got a little lucky for some people like me that have him everywhere and Scott Fishbowl and stuff. Once they traded Adams, I mean, he's getting 15, 20 targets. I don't know if that's going to happen every year moving forward, but you can see he can be the focal point of your offense or passing game and have a really good passing game because it was the same thing at UGA.
Well, I feel like if the Raiders are smart, which this was my concern.
I was going to say,
he missed time last season at Georgia. I had no concern about his talent. I didn't like the landing spot. And I'll be honest, I was really low on Brock Bowers coming into this season. Not because he's not talented, but I was looking at, you've got Mark Davis, who doesn't seem like he knows what the hell he's doing. He's his dad's kid, so that's concerning. It's like Jerry Jones Jr. Al Davis was competent because Al Davis surrounded himself with smart people. Mark Davis isn't doing the same thing. Amy Trask, friend of the show, probably one of the smartest people in football, and Al Davis attached himself to her for years. That's why the Raiders were so good during that period, because she knew what the hell she was doing. Mark Davis isn't doing the same thing. You got Antonio Pierce, who is an interim coach, given head coach responsibilities for a full season. And I looked at the makeup of this team: Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell, Devontae Adams. You thought, well, he's going to eat. Jacoby Myers, well, he's going to eat. Luke Musgrave was a second-round pick the year before. Or Mike Mayer, I'm sorry, was the first-round pick the year before. So at that point, I just wondered, what is this franchise doing? They didn't need a tight end. They really needed to address quarterback with that pick. They didn't do it. I was afraid that Brock Bowers was going to get lost on a bad team for his first season. Not that he wasn't going to be fantasy relevant. I still drafted him sometimes later on in drafts, but I just didn't think he was going to do this. Like, they really have just turned him in. He's the focal point of this Raiders offense. He's that good.
Oh, for sure. They drafted him as an offensive weapon, though, and that's what I was telling people is I think it was actually one of the smarter picks they've made forever. And like, there's so many teams that passed on him. Yeah, looking at you, Jets. Like, I know the Jets have a ton of issues, but you're telling me you throw Brock Bowers, because again, he's a good blocker. That's the thing that keeps getting lost. Is like you can throw him on the line and he can actually block too. But I just think that they looked at it like, we're going to do exactly what they've done. They've moved him all over the field. He's not just playing in line, like he's lining outside. He's lining in the slot. He did a lot of that in college too. And a lot of it, again, the reason I knew all this was if you only watched him last year, once Todd Monken left UGA, they used him really more like a traditional tight end. You look at those first 2 years, he was used everywhere. I mean, he's running the ball out of the backfield. They were lining him up at fullback. I mean, like all over the place. And the other thing that just, again, it's a big thing for me in football, basketball, all those things is like how good somebody is young. That's why I'm so high on this kid at Alabama right now, the wide receiver. Brock Bowers has still not turned 22 years of age. He'll be 22 on the 13th of December. So when he was a true 18-year-old like kid, he was smoking the SEC to 1,300 yards receiving, 13 touchdowns. And that just doesn't happen. And Herschel Walker was the same way, who was the other guy. He was a little before my time, but he's the only other Georgia player I say in my lifetime, because I was technically alive, when Herschel was there for the last 2 years, that just, this like generational talent. And I'm just so happy for him. I'm also happy for Ladd. People, need to realize this is why Beck is having a lot of the issues he's having, is because he's lost 3 first-round offensive linemen. And then Brock Bowers and Ladd McConkey, where people are seeing like those weren't just guys, they were dudes. You know what I mean? Like guys that could get open very easily on a moment's notice.
Well, McConkey's a phenomenal route runner. His footwork is exceptional. I remember watching him run the cone drills in Mobile last year.
Was it not insane?
It was insane. I think you were probably sitting right by us watching him do it. And just the way that he's able to move his feet and maneuver in traffic. One of the things about McConkey and Ricky Pearsall, both that really impressed me, is that they were having issues in press coverage on Tuesday of practice. By Wednesday, they were both beating press coverage like it was nothing, because they listened to the coaches. And they were going against top-tier talent. And these guys have shown that they can compete at the NFL level. McConkey, right now, he's the Chargers' leading receiver. He's got almost 700 yards. He's got 4 touchdowns, almost nearly 50 catches. He's at 49 catches. J.K. Dobbins is out this week, too.
God, I hate it I hate it so bad. I've never hated for anybody in my life one J.K. Dobbins. I just wanted him to have one healthy year because he's such a stud, and he just has had the worst injury luck ever.
Well, he hasn't had a full season in the NFL. And again, now this is another year. He's not going to have a full season. How are you feeling about Gus Edwards with this injury? Is he someone that you're wanting to kind of fire up in lineups, or is it,
Not this week. I mean, like, if you have to, it's different. You know what I mean? Like, if you're kind of stuck with it, he's going to get the opportunities. That's worthwhile starting. But Falcons, again, a Falcons fan, feel sorry for me. We're pretty good versus the run. The issue is going to be, like, Herbert and those wide receivers are going to cook because we can't get pressure. That's why opposing quarterbacks have like the highest completion percentage versus us. Like I keep telling people, look what Bo Nix did to us. Like just carved us up. I'm telling you, Justin Herbert's going to have a field day. And that's actually the guy that really concerns me is Herbert, because he's proved the last couple of weeks he can really do it with his feet. Now, Edwards has a great chance to score a touchdown when he gets close. I don't see, though, Edwards like running for a big number, because really just very few backs this year have gone off versus the Falcons. It's been the passing game is where we struggle because we can't get pressure.
Well, I think if we're going to see anybody benefit from Dobbins being out, it's going to be Kamani Vidal, just because of that, because he's more of the pass-catching type back. Big frame, gets open in traffic. That kid can catch on go routes, too. Him and Dylan Laube, the two receivers in this class that are really good deep with the ball. I can see Vidal maybe getting 5-6 targets in this game with Dobbins out. I know we've got a couple of questions here I want to get to. The first couple, we've got some Scott Fishbowl questions. Vince Mapstone wants to know here, who should he start out of? Gus Edwards, Jawan Jennings, or a kick returner? His options would be Mims against Cleveland, Davis against Atlanta, Rasheed Blackshear against Tampa Bay, Alec Pierce against Jacksonville, or Xavier Gibson against Seattle. I'm going to say right now, Marvin Mims is who I want to start out of this entire group this week.
So unless the news changes, and right now I'm saying Brock Purdy will play, it's Jawan Jennings for me. 41% first read target share. Again, like last week, I'm sorry if you listened to me, I was all over Jawan Jennings. I didn't know that the Niners were once again going to screw us by not letting it out that their starting quarterback had a splint on his throwing hand, like kind of a big deal. I don't understand how they keep getting away with this, and it's not, basically against league rules. But I do think with Purdy playing, Jennings is going to get enough volume where I'm okay playing him. I agree, though, if you're not going to do that and you want – because, again, the upside really is with, obviously the kick returners, because I've seen it with Eckler and a few guys I have on my roster. All they got to do is have one big kick return, and they'll score 15, 20 points with the scoring setting, and Scott Fishbowl. But I do like Jennings just because I think he's safe, like floor of at least 10, 15 points, and we've seen that he can have these monster games too.
So if you're going floor, go Jennings, especially if Purdy's playing. I completely agree with you there. The thing with Marvin Mims is not only is he now getting involved on like jet sweep type plays, backfield plays, bubble screens, and becoming actually finally effective with them, he's a kick returner. And in the Scott Fishbowl format, if you need safe, go with Juwan Jennings, Vince. I would say if you're already behind the cut line right now, go with Marvin Mims. Go for that boom because he could put up 30 points in Scott Fishbowl this week, especially against Cleveland. Yeah. So we'll just have to see here. We've got Veet Skeets over on Twitch. Wants to know start Flowers, Jennings, Mooney, or Pittman Jr. this week. I'm gonna lean Jennings.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I am. Philly's secondary has been so good lately that as much as I love Flowers because he's the clear number one pass option, in Baltimore, this is by far probably his toughest matchup on the season. Right there with the Pittsburgh, where he's been, lining up against Porter for most of the game. The difference with Philly is they have multiple stud corners now because they did such a good job in this last draft. I do want to also, though, just point out, like, Pittman Jr. is interesting to me because it looks like Downs could miss this week. If that becomes a factor, like if Downs is out, I really do like Pittman this week as well. Mooney, again, like he's been great, but just that Chargers, like their secondary, I know they got cooked by Lamar. Everybody gets cooked by Lamar. Like, don't look too much into that. I'm very curious to see what my Falcons passing game can do versus Chargers defense, because I'm worried that was more of just a threat of Lamar and Henry is what opened up the passing game so much for him. And really, if you look at it, it's mostly big plays. So to me, it's Jennings and Pittman. And I can't believe I'm saying that because Flowers has been an MVP all year, but that is a really, really solid secondary in Philadelphia.
It is. Veetskeets wants to know if we're considering weather here. I believe you're probably referencing the San Francisco-Buffalo game in Buffalo where it's supposed to be a little blustery. I'm not super worried about it. These are NFL teams. We were really worried about that Green Bay game last week. It was that Monday night, and it ended up being just fine.
I mean, last night it was 26 degrees in Green Bay last night, and both offenses ended up moving the ball pretty well. To me, like, yes, if there ends up being like a lot of snow and sleet and wind, yeah, like that's I get more concerned with wind than I do with just cold weather because I just think that it's that's what really affects the passing game. More than anything is, when it's cold and then there's a wind. If you play golf when it's cold and into the wind, the ball like throwing it into the wind, it's like going nowhere. It's like hitting a wiffle ball.
Yeah, if you ever tried to drive straight into torrential or just really high winds, I've had one literally go up, catch wind, and come back towards me. So, I'm not worried about snow. I'm not worried about cold. These offenses are going to find ways to move the ball. Quincy Davis over on YouTube wants to know bench one out of Debo, Mooney, or Jennings. I'm going to lean Mooney because of the matchup.
Yeah, I think that I agree, especially because to your point, like this is must-win territory for the 49ers. I mean, they lose this, and I don't really see a path for them. That's why Purdy's playing. So you would have to assume like it's a kitchen sink game. That may mean Debo finally gets more involved in the run game, which I've been shocked they haven't gone to that because he's such an effective running back. Like basically when you put him back there and it allows you to run some different formations and stuff. Yeah. So I would lean that way too. But again, if the weather is looking like really awful, then obviously I would just probably play Jennings and roll Mooney because he's in the nice confines of a dome.
Yep. 100%. I'm with you there. Quincy Davis got another question for us. And guys, if you're watching here on YouTube, please make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We are live 5 times a week. Waiver Wire, Herms and Nate. We've got our flagship show, DFS. Then, of course, Q&A here with me and Keith. Quincy wants to know, Keith, bench 2 out of this list. Alvin Kamara, Kyron Williams, Debo Samuel, George Pickens, Bucky Brooks, B-Rob, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. B-Rob's questionable. He's probably the first one. He's probably the first one I'd sit. Then after that, probably Debo.
Yeah, I'm with you. I know that MVS like 6 targets, but this is a great matchup again. Like the Rams, 6 most plays of 20 yards or more to wide receivers. And then now I did a whole thing on this last week on our DFS show that if you look from the beginning of the season, games that Carr starts, a wide receiver on the Saints has caught a reception of 40 yards or more in 7 of 8. Early in the season, it was Olave, it was She. Well, both of those guys are out. So now it's just MVS. And I just think there's a great chance, again, he makes at least one big play. And if they get down, which they haven't been the last couple of weeks, he could end up seeing a lot more volume as well. I really like MVS this week. So I'm with you. Like, I have him over, like, Debo, what he's been doing lately. And I don't want anything to do with Washington's run game right now. Like, it's pretty much Daniels or bust.
Well, I need Jeremy McNichols to do something for me because
I got him in a bunch of places too. So
yeah,
I do too, but I don't trust it. You know what I mean? Like, for whatever
I don't
reason,
either.
their run game has just gone. I don't know what happened earlier. They were running it great, and now they just can't seem to figure it out.
A lot has happened with that offense. The Cliff Kingsbury cliff.
Well, that's
more than likely
very fair.
Now Vince Mapstone's got another question for us here, Keith. PPR is home league. Pick 3 of Kamara, Bijan, CMC, Chase Brown, and Cup. So let's go at it this way. Which 2 are you benching on this list?
Well, I can't sit Cup or Bijan right now. Just period. Like, they're just too involved in their offense. So then it comes down to the other 3, which is really tough. Like, CMC does not look the same to me. So that would be one that I'm definitely benching. And then like the Bengals are where are they at?
The Bengals are playing Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think I would go Kamara. I love Chase Brown. He's on the field all the time. I know Kamara's got to deal with Taysom Hill, vulture and touchdowns, but Steelers defense is legit. And it does scare me that this might be the one game Chase Brown can't do his, normal 15 to 20 points he gets every week.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. Yeah, CMC and Chase Brown. God, that feels weird to say here. Jamie, what is up, buddy? I saw your comments earlier. I'm sorry I didn't get him up, my friend. But he does love us. He's thankful for Optimus for the holidays. Jamie, we're thankful for you, my friend. He wants to know who are you starting this week? Will Dissly or Dalton Schultz?
It's Dissly. For me, he is
all day.
Oh, legit, passing. Like, I think he's a top 10 tight end pretty much the rest of the way out. If you look how much the Chargers are throwing. And again, the Falcons were only 4 weeks, I think, removed from when K. Dotton caught like 9 passes for 81 yards and 2 touchdowns. We have more issues with tight ends than our numbers show. Trust me.
And Will Dissly's just been so incredibly consistent. Vince wants to know, how is it that I can say that we should sit my Facebook friend, the one and only B-Rob? Well, he's going to be hurt, and that's why. I love him. Great dude. Fun fact, I am also Facebook friends with Cooper Kupp as of recently. So here we go. We'll see if we can get him on the show.
Right.
Quincy Davis wants to know this week, Russell Wilson or Drake May. For me, it's Russell Wilson. This is a division game against Cincinnati. They have to ball out. They don't have to win, but this is another statement game within the division. So I'm saying Wilson over May this week.
Man, I have a hard time like sitting May for somebody like Russell right now, just because of the legs. Like, he just gives you such a high floor. I mean, if you look at it, he scored, I think, 15 points or more in every full game he's played other than against Chicago. And we've seen like Chicago is a legit defense, and that was at Chicago as well. I like, the upside of the legs. And then on top of this is actually one of the few teams in Indy that I think he can really throw on. Like, I think he's going to be able to actually move the ball. So I slightly go Mayer. I see what you're saying, because I do think that there's a great chance that turns into a shootout, because I think since he's going to be able to score, they're fighting for their playoff lives. But I just love Drake May's upside. I mean, when you get a guy that I think he's averaged like almost 5 points per game just with his legs, you're starting with 5 points. That's a pretty good place to get against kind of a weak Indy defense.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong either way, honestly. I'm leaning Wilson because of the significance of the game, but May is going to get you points with his feet too. So I wanted to pop back to this one from earlier that we missed. Sorry about that, Jamie. It's another Scott Fish Bowl start 2 question out of Pittman, Mooney, Brian Robinson, and Russell Wilson. My 2 would be, we're going to go Mooney and Pittman out of these 4.
Yeah, I think I would too. It's just those are the guys that, especially I think Chargers are going to move the ball. So Mooney's going to have to get some volume. And if, he has the ability to break it. And again, like I think if Downs out, Pittman is a really good play this week. Because, I mean, come on, who else the Colts going to throw it to for the short passes? Because, Pierce is either boom or bust, and so is Mitchell for whatever reason. They don't want to throw a short pass to either one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm really mad that Josh Downs is missing this week, but what can you do, I guess? Quincy Davis, sit Jennings, Cup, Tank Dell, or Justin Jefferson. For me, it's going to be Tank Dell.
Yeah, I think that's right. I can't ever sit Justin Jefferson. I don't care if he was playing a team that somehow was allowed to play 22 players on the field. I can't sit JJ. He's the man. But I agree with you. I think it's Tank Dell. Now that Nico's back, unfortunately, like Dell, it should be easier for him, but it just means his volume is going to be so much less than what it was for that little spell where Collins was out.
Well, when you have Joe Mixon,
you
don't need to throw the ball as much.
Point. Really good point.
Yeah. We've got Derek Buck over on YouTube. Jennings if Purdy plays, or Jerry Jeudy revenge game in half PPR. So something you guys will all learn about me here if you're subscribed with Derek. I hope you're subscribed here. We've got lots of great content all week long through the season, and even during the off season, we're going to be live plenty, because what else am I going to do with my life? Here's my thing with revenge games. They always sound nice, but it doesn't help teams win. And Jerry Jeudy doesn't really have anything to be revengeful for. He got paid going to Cleveland. He got out of a situation where, I mean, let's be honest, I don't think Sean Payton wanted him. He didn't fit into the Denver offense. Not that he was a headache by any means in that locker room. He didn't fit the scheme that Sean Payton was trying to go for. And also, if Pat Surtain is going to be covering him all day, or PJ Locke is going to be covering him all day, or Riley Moss is going to be covering him all day, there's no revenge to be had. This is going to be a long day for Cleveland. It's going to be a long day for Jameis Winston. I'm starting Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, my biggest L this year is just how off I was on Denver as a whole. Sean Payton still got it. It's incredible.
Yeah.
This is the same team that gave up 700 rushing yards last year and a 60 burger to the Dolphins, and now they're arguably one of the top 5 defenses in the league. He took a QB that I didn't believe in Bo Nix, and has made him look incredible. It's just across the board just been a win. And I'm with you, the Browns, if you think that they had some issues, allowing Pittsburgh to get pressure and some of their last opponents, wait till this Denver front, which right now I think has had the most sacks in the NFL over the last 6 weeks. So I think you're right. Broncos are going to be really tough, and they don't score enough points where I think they're going to be so far down then Jeudy can just go bananas, with garbage time points.
No, and Cleveland's got a good defense, so they can keep Denver in check a little bit. I mean, there's no way in hell they win this game, in my opinion. Sorry, Jamie. Speaking of Jamie, he wants to know, how long will Roshan be out with his concussion? Last time he missed 3 weeks. I don't know. It's sounding like it was on the milder side of concussion, so hopefully he'll be back next week. I'm bummed. I needed to start him a handful of places. But speaking of the Bears,
helps so that he has the extra days, right? At least with it being Thursday, he's going to get 10 days or whatever, I think, to their next game. So.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it goes. Hopefully he doesn't really miss any time. But who is going to miss time? Matt Eberflus on the chopping block. The significance of this, I don't know if our viewers know this. I don't know if you study NFL history, if you know the historical significance of Eberflus being fired today. In the history of the Bears franchise, over 120 years of existence, they have never fired a coach during the season.
Wow, I did not know that.
Matt Eberflus is the first in-season head coaching change the Bears have ever made.
Wow. Rightfully so.
I don't want to be Matt Eberflus on this side of history, personally, because that's just saying, wow, you're one of the worst coaches in franchise history at this point. But you can't argue with it. You look at that game management yesterday, Keith. What the hell happened? You had a timeout left.
His answer was even worse. To me, it's A, you screwed up. But then to say, I wouldn't do, basically trying to say it's QB's fault. Did Caleb Williams make a mistake too? Absolutely. He's a rookie quarterback. You're the coach. I don't understand why they didn't immediately call timeout and set up hey, we're going to run this play. If we get this many yards, kicking team has to go out. We've seen teams do this all the time. And you'd have at least 20-something seconds to kick the game-tying field goal. even worse, once it got down to like say 15 seconds, you call the timeout, you run something to the sidelines trying to get out of bounds, and at least you still get 2 shots at it. And he's just so flippant. 5 and 22 in 1-score games. That's all you need to know. Like I saw this with Arthur Smith. Like he was the same way. It seemed like every time the Falcons got in a 1-score game, we were going to lose.
Yeah.
I mean, like good coaches win those games. Bad coaches lose them. 5 and 22. I think it's the worst in the history of the NFL for somebody that's coached at least like 50 games.
Didn't he come from the CFL? Right? Wasn't he? Eberflus was.
I think you're right.
He was a CFL
I know my buddy
coach.
makes some Canadian jokes, so I would assume that's probably where they come from.
All right, well then that tracks. Eberflus needed to call a timeout yesterday. I've watched a Broncos team, when Jason Elam was still the kicker, so that's just dating myself here. They, with no timeouts, got the kicking unit on and kicked a game-winning field goal. The player who caught the pass to put them in position caught it with 14 seconds left on the clock.
Wow.
The Broncos still got a field goal off. That's coaching, though.
I think.
And it tells you everything you need to know about Matt Eberflus.
So he definitely came from the Colts. I know that's the defensive coordinator. I'm trying to look up if he coached in this, because I believe you're right. That's actually where he started or was the head coach first. Maybe not. No, I'm sorry. So he went from Missouri to Cleveland, Dallas, and then he was the Indy D coordinator, which I don't even remember the Indy defense being that great from 2018, 2021. Maybe I'm wrong.
They were okay.
He's been the Bears coach for 3 years. So that is a job though that I would want. 110% if I was a coach. The Caleb haters, I'm telling you, the dude's got game. You're gonna have to rein him in. You have to rein in all really talented quarterbacks because they want to make all the throws, but they've got weapons. They got a good defense. Like that would be a job that I would definitely want.
What do you think? I think it goes to Ben Johnson.
If he wants to leave, does he want to leave though? You know what I mean? Like he seems like he really wants to win a Super Bowl before he leaves Detroit. Now they may accomplish that this year. That may solve, all the issues, but I took him turning down some of the gigs he did last year and what he said being like, hey, I want to stick here until we finish this together and then move on. So I think that may play a role, but yeah, I mean, why would he not want to, get his hands on Caleb? But if he can do what he can do with Jared Goff, I think he can do some really special things with Caleb Williams.
I've also seen some chattering that maybe Todd Monken will be up for a head coaching position. I have a hard time believing he'd pivot. I mean, he's really just kind of stuck as a coordinator, and I feel like that's the way it's going to stay. We've got Tyler Sperry here in the chat. He wants to know, will Pacheco ever be back to normal? 5 carries. He actually ended up with 7 carries today for 44 yards, 6.3 yards per carry. I think next week we're going to see Pacheco on a full workload. We can get back to he is an RB1. The bigger concern for me is Kareem Hunt, 7 carries for 15 yards today.
This issue, and guys get older, right? Like, I mean, I think he's wearing down. Like, they got what they needed out of him. He's been great.
Yep.
Pass over Pacheco. I think what was really big, too, was just seeing that Pacheco – I think it was like 4 of those 7 carries came when they were trying to clinch the game, so that when they really needed something late, they were going to Pacheco. I think that shows you're exactly right. Like, it may not be next week where it's 80-20, but I think you're going to slowly see him, ramp up to where I'll be shocked if he doesn't get at least double digit next week. And I mean, as soon as in 2 weeks, I think they're going to want to see what they got in him. And he's a guy that's better getting 15, 20 carries because he's just so good at getting 3-4 yards at a time.
Yep. He's efficient. He's more efficient than Kareem Hunt's been. Even though Kareem Hunt's been fun, I think his time really is a relevant fantasy player. Maybe he's a flex next week. Probably not, though. Jamie Prague, Brian Thomas Jr., if Lawrence plays, or do you go Darnell Mooney?
I'm licking my chops about Brian Thomas the rest of the season. If Trevor, like him and Evan Ingram, I think are going to end up winning some fantasy football leagues if you can get Trevor Lawrence back, because those guys are elite. Like, that's an elite tight end, elite wide receiver. They just need somebody other than Mac Jones throwing the ball. Whatever you think of Trevor Lawrence, he can sling it. So I would go definitely Thomas. Again, Chargers really good secondary.
You're not worried about going up against Houston with T-Law's first game back?
Cooper Rush threw for 350 on this team, and the Jaguars stink is the big thing. They're so bad.
Cooper Rush is so good.
Well, that's fair. This Jags defense is so bad. It would not surprise me if the Texans are up huge. And that's great for Brian Thomas, to where even though I'm very worried about the Chargers game, I think the Falcons are going to at least be able to hang with them, to where I think that's the great thing again about why I'm so high on Ingram and Thomas the rest of the year is Jags are so bad defensively. They're going to be down every game and then just chuck, which is a wonderful situation if you have Brian Thomas or Evan Ingram.
It is. It definitely is. Derek Buck back in the chat here. So we're going with Jennings, even if Purdy is ruled out. That is correct. Brandon Allen's got to throw it somewhere. I think Purdy's he's going to play. But even if it's not Purdy, they're going to find more ways to get Jennings involved this week with Brandon Allen. They kind of have no choice. Now, Albert American wants to know, pick 2 out of here. So who are you benching out of Kyler, Nixon, Darnold for Superflex?
I can't bench Bo Nix right now. He's playing too good. I never thought in the world that I would be saying those words this season. And then I think Kyler is going to have to cook. I mean, if you look at it, this is Minnesota's defense is so good versus the run that I think he's going to have to run more to pick up first downs. And then the way you attack Minnesota, we saw it last week with Chicago, is you got to throw it. So I like Kyler. Like, I like Darnold a lot, but I just think, again, both of those other guys have rushing upside. Darnold doesn't. So that's kind of why I'm going that way.
Well, I do believe I've got Darnold all the way back at QB 22 in my rankings this week, where I have Nix at QB 12, and I've got Kyler up at, I don't have him QB 13, so I've got him one slot behind Nix. So I'd roll out Kyler and Nix. I'm completely with you on that one. Oh, guys, I want to say thank you to everyone who tuned in. We're going to cut this one just a little short at 40 minutes because it's Black Friday. I have chicken fingers, homemade, that are sitting in the freezer right now. I still got to cook them, but I prepped them between shows, and I'm not going to lie, man. I haven't eaten since dinner last night, and I'm starting to get freaking hungry.
I'm about to do the exact same thing, man. So,
all right. Well, guys, I want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. If you are still watching here, or if you are watching later to get some insights for week 13 of fantasy football, please make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, we are live 5 times a week with waiver wire, DFS, start sit. We have got betting content. We've got it all. If you need more help on Sunday, head on over to Reddit. r/fantasy footballs, 3.5 million subscribers strong over on Reddit. We will be doing a last minute Ask Me Anything over there at 11 a.m. Eastern, right up until kickoff. We'll do our best to get to all your questions here. And then coming up next week on Tuesday, the 5th at 5 p.m. Eastern, we have Waiver Wire Live with me and Mike Reedy. Then Nate and Herm's show on the 6th of December, Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern. The Optimist Podcast live with myself and Casey Kasem on Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Catching a trend here. We're moving all of our times to right about that 5 p.m. Eastern. We got to catch the people coming home from work. And the people who are tired of being at work. They're just trying to kill that last 30 minutes. We're here for you. And then on Friday, DFS live at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then, of course, Keith and I will be back for live Q&A next week at 6 p.m. Eastern. Until then, I am Nate Polvogt for Keith Flemming. Good luck in week 13, and we will catch you guys on Tuesday.